What would you do? You got to do something. You're a smart guy. You know the math in the Senate. You know the math in the House. Give me an idea how to avoid the pain of a government shutdown.
Well, look, I don't think we should have a shutdown. I think Harry Reid should stop refusing to negotiate.
So what do you want? Give us a realistic proposal that could have a chance of success.
Look, what I want is to keep the government running and at the same time to deal with the harms, the millions of Americans who are losing their health care, at risk of losing their health care, who are facing skyrocketing insurance premiums. I want the American people to be treated the same as President Obama is treating big corporations and members of Congress.
But
He's
between now and midnight, you're not going to resolve
Well,
that.
let me give you another strategy that ought to happen at the same time. We saw today that a continuing resolution funding the military passed both houses unanimously. Now, the president listed all of these terrible things that will happen if Harry Reid forces a shutdown. I think we ought to start passing continuing resolutions narrowly focused on each of the things the president listed. So he said Border Patrol agents won't be paid. Fine, let's pass a continuing resolution that funds Border Patrol agents. He says that he plans to close every national park. Fine, let's fund a continuing resolution funding the interior, keeping the parks open. Let's one at a time demonstrate the same bipartisan cooperation we saw today with the military and address all of these people that he's holding out as are going to suffer. And if the president's willing to actually roll up his sleeves and work, we can deal with much of the downside consequences.
But basically, you want to. How many of those resolutions you think you can pass between now and midnight?
Well, look, there's no rule that a continuing resolution has to fund every bit of the federal government all at the same time. We should pick the critical priorities, the areas where, if the Democrats force a shutdown, the areas where there'll be the most pain, and let's address that. Let's take them off the table. And I think the House tonight ought to pass several continuing resolutions. I was glad the president made clear that even if they force a shutdown, Social Security will continue, the military will continue, Medicare will continue, but we ought to address the other areas. The VA, a perfect example. The House should pass a continuing resolution funding the VA in its entirety, send it to the Senate, and I hope Harry Reid would show the same willingness to work that he did this afternoon.